Considering how hard I'm struggling to not be violent, I really would have appreciated it if violence didn't cleanly solve my problems. Yet after establishing dominance on Melik and Gina, I was barely even reprimanded. I was reprimanded, at least a little. Not because I shattered multiple ribs in two of my fellow trainees and damaged their lungs enough that they might have died without biomantic support, though. No, I just got a slap on the wrist for that, which is a strange metaphor. Instead, people mainly got mad because my excessive force damaged the barracks. Melik and Gina, meanwhile, got thoroughly chewed out, which is a terrifying metaphor, for provoking me. The next day, I was back to classes as usual, except now those classes were significantly more enjoyable due to the absence of Melik and Gina. A couple days later, Melik and Gina were back for everything other than the combat classes, including returning to our dorm room. She's been ignoring me, but honestly, that's some of the best treatment I've gotten from Gina since we first met. Melik glares daggers at me, a confusing metaphor, every time I walk by, which is a little hurtful but pretty tolerable overall. So after all that, after I hurt some people on purpose after all this time, life just goes on. Hey Lark, Xavier says, nearly unintelligible since his mouth is completely full of food. You've got your depressed face on. I blink in surprise, glancing sheepishly across the table at him and Bentley. We're in the cafeteria together, as Xavier finally managed to convince me to eat with them. I've got my armor mostly off, and underneath the table I'm busying my lower two arms learning to weave more complex clothing with my webs than wrappings and cloak. Sorry, I mutter, grabbing an unconscious mouse from my food box and swallowing it whole. Hey, none of that, Xavier chides lightly. You got nothing to be sorry for, so no apologies. I know, I grumble. Sorry. I jolt slightly as I realize what I've just said, and Xavier busts out laughing. Hard habit to break, isn't it? He smirks. Seriously though, you good? You wanna talk about it? I sigh through my nose, flicking my ear as I glance away. Not really, I mumble. I'm just thinking about Gina and Melik again. You mean how you trounced them 2-on-1 like a complete badass? Xavier prods, knowing that's not right because we've talked about this before. No. I seriously injured both of them, but they got harsher punishments than I did, I press. I don't like it. I should be punished. They made you fix the mess you made in the courtyard by yourself, Bentley chimes in between bites. That's not a punishment, that's just work, I dismiss. I got it done overnight. Which is to say you labored non-stop, by yourself, in the dark, during the entire 12-hour nighttime of Titan's Discus, Xavier smirks. We would have helped if you'd just asked us. Bentley frowns. That's why I didn't ask you, I say flatly. You need sleep, I don't. I'm just saying, it feels weird. I know that Harvey vouched for me and went over how Melik and Gina pretty much wouldn't take no for an answer, but I should have gone to a superior or something instead of breaking their ribs. Hardly anyone seemed to care, though. Our combat instructor seemed happy. I think he's happy because you're putting more effort into his class, Bentley says quietly. You never really fought back in spars until recently. Well, now I know exactly how fragile you humans are, I admit, swallowing another mouse. I don't have to worry about hurting you as much. Xavier suddenly starts laughing. Shit, I love how you're not even joking, he chuckles. You just bust out lines like that with such seriousness. Language, I grumble, and he laughs again. And why wouldn't I be serious? It's absolutely terrifying being around people all the time. If I kick someone too hard, my foot goes through their torso. If I twitch my quills at the wrong time I could cut someone in half. When Bentley punched me in the face during our spar yesterday I nearly bit his hand clean off. Sorry, Bentley says quietly. No, I insist quickly. I'm fine, Bentley, it was a great hit. You surprised me. See? Xavier says smugly, waving his food-filled fork at me. Friends apologizing for things they shouldn't doesn't feel good. I let out a long sigh. I get it, I just wish Xavier would stop repeating himself. If there's one thing that's really starting to frustrate me about humans, it's how often they repeat themselves. I slurp down my last two mice, glowering slightly at Xavier as he watches me with a slightly uncomfortable amount of fascination. You should honestly get some cafeteria food, Xavier says, thankfully changing the subject. You're entitled to a portion, as a trainee. I frowned slightly at the image of trying to eat any of that disgusting slop, absent-mindedly patting my own belly in sympathy. Pretty much anything that isn't alive tastes equally terrible to me, and if I swallow something that doesn't really feed me, it still vanishes from the inside of my body like anything else does. But the idea of actually eating the vaguely white mush Xavier and Bentley devour by the bowl fills me with a special kind of revulsion. I literally can't digest that stuff, I remind him. It doesn't help me at all. Yeah, but then you could give it to Bentley and I, Xavier points out, wiggling his eyebrows. I curl up the talons of one foot, anxiously tapping my toe knuckles on the floor. I'll think about it. Though on the subject of gluttony, I should probably see if Lady Vesuvius would be willing to increase my food allotment. 4 mice feels like it's not taking the edge off as much anymore. It's like my stomach is getting annoyed with me for only feeding it the bare minimum possible. Xavier nods in an understanding manner, wolfing down more of his food. Well, if you ever start feeling a bit too munchy, he says after swallowing, feel free to swallow one of my hands. Especially if it's before a big test, I can always use the extra study time. I stiffen, momentarily paralyzed by a wretched mix of memory and temptation. He said it was okay. He said it was okay. That means I can, right? It would be fine. Lady Vesuvius could heal him without issue, I bet. It would. Arg. No. Xavier, I say firmly. Please don't ever joke about that again. He blinks, nodding slowly. All right, he concedes. I won't. My bad. Thank you. I stand up, my body shaking a little as it screams to hunt. With a twitch of my claws I cut the threads of my weaving project free from hands, draping the half-finished sleeve thing over my shoulder as I turn to walk away. Hey, Lark! Bentley calls out, stopping me in my tracks. My ears are flat against my head and it's an effort of will to not extend my quills at him. Which would not be appropriate because he is my friend, even though I tried to kill him that one time. I think it's really cool how hard you try, Bentley continues. Can confirm, Xavier chimes in. You're pretty cool. Don't forget it. I sigh. So you've both told me, I say flatly. Over a dozen times each. Why do you keep repeating it? Because I know incredibly depressed and in desperate need of positive reinforcement when I see it, Xavier says, and though I'm not facing him I can practically feel him make a lopsided grin. So if you want me to stop, you're going to have to start believing me, or just be good enough at hiding it that I don't notice anymore, I guess. It'd be unfair of me to not allow that strategy. I glance back at him and raise an eyebrow. Sure enough, he's flashing a sardonic grin my way. I do like Xavier, but times like these I find him really hard to understand. He can be a lot. I'll be okay, I reassure him. I just need to move around a little before we go to history class. Not entirely accurate, but it's a much easier thing to say than I plan to go get down on 6 limbs in the courtyard and vibrate my quills until I'm nothing but a frozen, black circle pulsing in the daylight. I wish they absorbed sound like they do light and heat, so I could also spend the time screaming. Still, I feel better after stretching my back a bit, though I wish I had a hot bath to do it in. I suppose I'm technically allowed in the baths in the barracks, but I accidentally terrified a few people when I tried it a few days ago. Plus, they just aren't that warm, and generally nowhere near as nice as Galdra's bath. Hopefully I'll figure out how to channel soon and can learn some thermomancy. Once I'm fairly certain class will start in 5 minutes or so, I quickly wind down, ceasing my quill's vibrations and standing back up on 2 legs, stretching the rest of my body. Someone else entered the courtyard and stopped nearby, but I'm a bit surprised when I glance over and realize she's been staring at me, possibly the whole time she's been here. It's a woman of middling height, light brown skin, brown eyes, brown hair, and a barely perceptible collection of small scars around her face, particularly her eyes and nose, that look like they're from fingernails. On her back she carries a set of full Templar armor, strapped up for transport and adorned with the black stripes of the Inquisition. In one hand she has a thick stack of papers. She steps forward and she extends her other gloved hand to shake, giving me a tired smile. You must be Lark, then, the woman says. I splay my toes a bit, trying to hide my nervousness as I reach out to accept her handshake. I've never seen this lady before in my life, but I suppose anyone in this part of the barracks is cleared to know about me. She smells quite weak, though, at least by Templar standards. She'd go down in under a second. Easy meal. That's me, I say out loud, letting her control the speed and force of the handshake. Something about this woman seems odd, and I'm not quite sure how to put my finger on it. Inquisitor Captain Yelisaveta, I suppose, she introduces herself. In the coming days I'll be replacing High Templar Galdra Cathala as your escort? The documentation says handler, but I don't really like that wording. I open my mouth to say something, but no words come out, so I close it again. What? Is Galdra leaving? But she's been so nice to me. It's sad to have her unexpectedly replaced like this, but more important than that. You are a terrible replacement for the High Templar, Mom, I say frankly. The woman seems more curious than offended. Her eyes flick quickly over me, darting across my body for some purpose I can't divine. What makes you say that? She asks me. Galdra is a deterrent, I say. Galdra can stop me if I try to hurt people. You can't. Captain Yelisaveta allows understandingly. Is that a problem that's come up recently? Or do you plan to go around eating people now that she's away? No. I protest immediately. No, I mean, I did injure a couple of my fellow trainees, but I didn't bite them or anything. I don't want to hurt anyone, Mom. She starts to respond, but a yawn cuts her off. I wait for her to continue. Well, how about you just do me a favor and continue not hurting anyone, then? She asks blandly. My room in the barracks is across from yours. Knock if you want or need to go anywhere. I'm taking a nap. With that, she departs, leaving me speechless. I suppose I have somewhere to be, though, so I show up to history class moments before it starts, taking my seat and immediately restarting on my weaving project. I'm getting faster and faster at reading, and these classes seem to just be the instructor rambling about the things we were assigned to read beforehand anyway. Said instructor doesn't seem to like it very much, but I've given up trying to get her to like me. Today is going to be a little different from usual, she says, causing me to twist my ears her way. Though we'll still be reviewing the material you were assigned tomorrow, we're going to do a surprise segment on much more recent history, the Ars Crisis. I don't know what that is, so I stop weaving and look up. I know that all of you were alive during this period, which makes it a somewhat strange subject to cover in a church history class. But arguably it is because of the strong emotions tied to that fraught period in Volca's relatively brief life as a country that we must look back and re-examine it with fresh eyes, as openly and with as little bias as we can muster. Not that the unbiased telling of events paints ours as anything less than an unrepentant, blasphemous monster, either. I hesitantly raise my hand to ask permission to speak. The instructor glowers at me a little, but calls my name. What is it, Lark? She asks. I don't believe I was alive for this period, I say hesitantly. Unless it just never reached the places I was living? I can almost feel the rest of the class wonder how old I am before coming to the inevitable conclusion. I try not to wince. Humans always act strangely about my age. Well, the instructor sighs, this actually presents us with a convenient segue. Much like our current crisis with the Vrithitso, the threat had been out there, growing in strength for years, but only when it was dropped on top of our heads did we truly become aware of the extent of the danger. My ears go flat against my head, but I shut up as the instructor continues to speak. Ars was a master animancer, specializing in the creation of enslaved soul amalgamations and subverting his enemies into allies. Before we became aware of the crisis, he had already become a First Lord and High Inquisitor, likely through the corruption of his betters. For all his faults, however, he was clever and subtle. It is entirely possible that we would have never noticed his perversion were he not betrayed by two of his own creations, Manus and Interitis. Together, they secretly compiled proof of Ars' wrongdoing and released it as publicly as possible, preventing Ars from using animancy to wipe the problem away by simply creating too many people who knew the truth. This worked, and the purging of Ars' evil began in earnest. Though with the downside of inciting the people of Vulca into a nearly uncontrollable panic. She flicks her fingers rapidly, and soon an illusory scene springs to life in front of her, a street aflame, Templars trapped between an angry mob and other, Ars corrupted Templars. Ars leaned into this chaos, The instructor continues, and the first part of the Oz crisis began in earnest. He would alter the minds of people seemingly at random, turning them into assassins or double agents in public ways that demanded attention from the Templars, splitting our forces while he corrupted more and more of us on the side. Many of the most talented members of the Inquisition were his puppets, and they spread their influence to nearly half the Inquisition's numbers, abusing a weakness in the decontamination procedures of the time to slip mental influence by our people unnoticed. Eventually, a new method of detecting and decontaminating an individual from Mars influence was formalized. These procedures, developed by the now current High Inquisitor Shamil, formed the backbone of our ability to fight against Tar's mind-bending influence. Rather than running around desperately trying to put out metaphorical and literal fires, we could establish a secure and reliable force with which to go on the offensive. The illusory scene changes, now showing squads of Templars sizing up against twisted caricatures of what I assume to be Oz and his followers. Unfortunately, while the Inquisition was inoculated against his influence, they lacked the numbers to protect everyone in Skyhope from his control. Oz cared little for collateral damage, teleporting around the city using the abilities of one of his splices, working on what he could, and escaping before the Inquisition could catch him. Eventually, however, we outpredicted him, and the first official kill on Oz is attributed to High Templar Braum the Ubiquitous. A ripple of confusion and worry pulses through the room, and our instructor smiles grimly. "Yes, you heard me right," she says. "The first kill." Thus we get to the second half of the Oz crisis, where it was revealed the man had the ability to take new bodies upon death. Most of the general public doesn't know about this, but thanks to Inquisitor Captain Manus we discovered Oz was alive and well before it was too late. Rumors of this ability escaped, but we did our best to quash them and control the public terror that followed. It is, however, real, and over the course of the continued crisis that followed, which was publicly blamed on the chaos caused by the Splicers and other Oz loyalists still active following his initial death, Oz was slain in battle no less than 5 other times, only to reappear as someone new. We named the ephemeral, body-hopping monster Oz turned himself into Lich, and devoted ourselves to stopping it. To end the crisis, our High Templars worked with Inquisitor Captain Manus in order to capture Oz alive, trapping him in his own body rather than allowing him to take a new one and escape again. The final illusion shows a man wrapped in restraints, being taken out of the city and locked away. Then, it winks out, the instructor clasping her hands behind her back as she looks out at the class. Now, the more thoughtful among you are asking yourselves, why are we discussing this now? Well, as I'm sure you know, a few days ago our city entered a skirmish with a powerful necromancer. This necromancer single-handedly defeated 3 of our army's tactical officers by herself, killing 2 of them before fleeing. Before her escape, however, she identified herself as Vita, the same name as the child of Ars Rania, and now confirmed to be history's second Lich. It is believed that Ars himself is free as well, though his whereabouts are unknown. The instructor casts a sad smile over the class. "One could argue you picked a rather poor time to join the Templars," she admits. "Should you graduate, you can expect yourselves to be facing not only Hiverock's brood, but the revival of the greatest threat of our generation. Obviously, everything you've learned today is top secret, and revealing it to anyone outside this barracks is grounds for immediate expulsion from the trainee program and serious punishment on top of that." Questions and answers start to fly around me, though most of my attention is stolen as I glance towards Bentley, who looks almost physically ill at the news. "Vita. She's back, she's alive." I'd heard the rumors, but to have it spelled out so plainly in front of me? It's a chilling feeling, knowing the monster I owe my life to still prowls around. I wish I had a better impression of who she is. Should I talk with Bentley? It might help him to have someone to talk to about Vita, but this seems pretty personal and I'd really just be doing it for my own curiosity. The question is mostly irrelevant, I guess, because we're too busy to start a conversation as we sit through class after class. Different people treat the news differently. Gina and Xavier don't seem to be affected much. Harvey is. Well, as hard for me to read as always, but to my surprise, Melik of all people seems extra disturbed. He barely even glares at me for the whole rest of the day. After class I'm no less busy. I have an appointment with Lady Vesuvius, which means I need to promptly get all my armor back on, return to the dorms, and... well, normally I would wait for Lady Cathala, but I suppose I need to knock on Captain Yelisavetta's door instead. I do so, then wait silently as I feel her wake up. It doesn't take her long, just a minute or so, and she's finished dressing, at the door. "You need something, trainee?" she asks, and I get that weird feeling again. What is? Oh. She doesn't recognize me because of the armor, I bet. "It's Lark, Mom," I remind her helpfully. "I know," she says. "We met. What, a few hours ago? Do you have somewhere you need to be?" She's in uniform, so I can't see her expression, but I guess I was just wrong? She recognized me through my disguise somehow. Which is weird because, I don't know. She just acts weird. She's so nonchalant. "I have an appointment with my assigned biomancer, First Lady Vesuvius," I inform her. "Wow, that figures," Captain Yelisaveta sighs. "Sure. Let's get going, then." "That's it, huh? Have you, seen a Vrithitso before?" I ask. "I got eaten by one, actually," she answers. "Partially, anyway. My team saved my life and Lady Vesuvius regrew my limbs." "Oh," I murmur. Another hard fail on that prediction. I guess I'm not as good at understanding people as I thought. Sorry about that. "Not like you ate me," Captain Yelisaveta answers, shrugging as she exits her room. I quickly follow her. "I'm just surprised you don't seem nervous," I admit. "Or fascinated, I guess. Most people are one or the other around me. It's only Xavier and Penelope that seem fascinated, but there's no reason to call them out on that." "I'm too tired to be nervous," Captain Yelisaveta grunts. "Don't worry about it." "Oh no, are you okay?" I ask seriously. I know humans get tired all the time, but my only real experience with extended, full-bodied exhaustion comes from moments where I'm seriously injured and low on blood. It's not a fun experience, and I doubt it's much less awful to live through just because it happens to humans a lot. "I'll be fine," she answers, nodding. "Thanks for asking. You are very polite." I blink, jolting a little as we walk. Thank you," I say, meaning it. I was taught that it's always good to be polite." "Oh yeah?" she asks, and I immediately regret my answer because she then says, "By who?" I glance away, trying to focus on anything other than the taste of his blood falling down my throat. "A very good man," I admit. "One I ended up killing." "I see," Captain Yelisaveta answers, and we remain silent until reaching Lady Vesuvius' laboratory. The huge, mostly wooden building has the same sharp smell as always, one I've gotten used to over the dozen or so times I've been here. Captain Yelisaveta seems to be looking around with great interest, however. I suppose most people haven't ever been inside. It doesn't take long for us to be escorted to the room Lady Vesuvius does her usual checkups in, and sure enough she's waiting for us when we enter. "Welcome, Lark," she says, smiling cheerfully. "And is this Inquisitor Captain Yelisaveta? Congratulations on the promotion." "Thank you, my lady," Yelisaveta says politely, and my ears twitch slightly as I almost hear Lady Vesuvius whisper something under her breath. It's so quiet I can't make out a single word of it, though. "Well, go ahead and get most of that armor off, Lark," Lady Vesuvius says primly. "Captain, if you'd wait outside?" Captain Yelisaveta bows slightly and exits, waiting on the other side of the door. No fussing about like Galdra does. I almost miss it. Until I think about what she used to do to my ears. I don't really have anything fancy on the agenda today, just a general checkup. Lady Vesuvius reports. She seems kind of tired, too. Well, I can't say I mind, I admit. It's not really fun getting bits of me chopped off. She smiles thinly. "Sorry about that," she says. "But knowing how fast your kind regenerates could potentially be life-saving data." "I understand," I tell her, meaning it. "Do whatever you have to in order to protect people from my brothers and sisters. I fear it will be your nieces and nephews soon, as well." Lady Vesuvius sighs, starting to cast her analysis spell as I finish stripping down to my underwear. "I estimate your body will reach sexual maturity sometime within the next 6 months, possibly as soon as 1 month. If we assume your siblings grow at a similar rate, well, our exponential problem will start its multiplication soon. Speaking of, make sure to report to me if you start feeling any abnormalities in your body or its natural urges."
I nod slowly. That sounds bad. All I have to report is that I feel like I need more food, I tell her. I'm getting hungrier more quickly and feeling less satisfied by meals. Lady Vesuvius hums. How bad is it? If possible, I'd like to test changing your diet to a different animal before we test increasing the physical mass fed to you. I raise my eyebrows a bit, but nod. That sounds great. I hate mice. Sure, I say. I should be fine for another couple weeks at least, if that doesn't help. Assuming it doesn't keep getting worse, I guess. Lady Vesuvius nods, descending into an uncharacteristic silence after that. She's normally quite chattery, so it's making me a little worried. Forgive me if this is too personal, but is everything okay, Lady Vesuvius? She looks up, quickly hiding a bit of surprise at my question before giving me a soft smile. More or less, yes, she tells me. I'm just a bit melancholy. It's, Have you ever spent a long time looking forward to something, only to realize once you get it that you're no longer the person that wanted it in the first place? And the new you no longer loves that thing, I continue understandingly. But it's too late after you've done it. Exactly, Lady Vesuvius agrees, sighing. May I ask what happened? I inquire curiously. It's rare that Lady Vesuvius opens up much about herself. Let's just say I'm no longer a girl that likes playing with toys, she murmurs. Nor anything that reminds me of them. Oof, I get that. I used to love toys, but now they just remind me of August. I nod understandingly, feeling a rare moment of kinship with this weird, aggressive woman. Though if you don't mind me changing the subject, I did have a non-medically related question for you, Lady Vesuvius says, injecting a seemingly artificial cheer into her voice. What is your opinion on tails? Huh? I sputter, feeling a bit of conversational whiplash. What do you mean? Tails, Lady Vesuvius repeats. I know you don't have one, but you're generally experienced at finding yourself with exciting new body parts, aren't you? What sort of things would you look for and dread in a tail? Well, I don't really want a tail, so if I started to grow one I'd hope it ends up as small and innocuous as possible, I answer simply. And why don't you want one? She presses. Well, it wouldn't help me, I explain. The key strengths of my body come from being light and fast. A tail would be extra weight for nothing. Balance? I don't have issues with it. Prehensile capabilities? I already have 4 arms, I don't need it. Lady Vesuvius ponders, tapping her chin. Well, I've been thinking of growing myself a tail, lately. I suppose I'm coming at it with the opposite intention, though. I want more mass, or specifically more volume. I need extra space for internal structures, and rather than expanding my height for relatively minimal gains, I figure I should take the next step of my evolution. But I'm trying to think about what pitfalls I should be mindful of before finalizing the concept. Well, she's back to being weird again, at least. Which is comforting somehow. I don't know Lady Vesuvius all that well, but I don't want her to be distressed. So, big like a snake tail? I ask. Not in the sense of it replacing your legs, but in the sense that it retains your normal body width throughout most of its length rather than being significantly thinner than the rest of you like a cat or tapering like a lizard. Yes, that would be the best way to maximize volume, she nods. But I'm worried about it being too cumbersome. I certainly don't need to move as quickly as you do, but it would still be a problem, I agree. I have to lean a little further forward when I walk with my quills extended. A giant tail would kill your balance if you tried to lift it off the ground, and if you're not lifting it off the ground it means you're dragging a huge tail everywhere. You'd probably get really sore. Lady Vesuvius hums thoughtfully. Speaking of, how have your back and shoulders been doing? The stretches you suggested help, thank you, I nod. Vibrating my quills every day to get heat flowing through them has also been doing wonders. That's wonderful to hear, she responds, almost absent-mindedly. So you think the main problem would be dragging the tail everywhere? If it weighs too much, you won't be able to lift it without falling backwards, I shrug. Right? Yes, you're absolutely right, Lady Vesuvius agrees. Perhaps rather than enabling the tail to be lifted, it might be easier to design it with the intention of being dragged. Well, I wouldn't know anything about that, I answer, shrugging. Honestly,
I've been working very hard trying to hold on to what little humanity I have.
I don't have any idea why you'd want to get rid of it.
Well, you're not very content with who and what you are, yes?
Lady Vesuvius asks me. Does it not stand to reason,
then, that some humans may feel the same way?
I nod slowly.
I guess that makes sense. It feels weird to me that any human would want to be a monstrous freak of nature, but it sounds silly to say so when I'm talking to a woman literally turning herself into one. It would be nice if people could just swap bodies,
or something.
I'd be happy to give up mine. Penelope lets out a full-bodied laugh.
Ah,
yes,
she agrees.
If only we knew someone who could do that.
He said yes.
Xavier squeals delightedly, half tackling me with a sudden hug from nowhere. My whole body goes stiff at the impact, my mind completely focused on halting all my natural responses to the unexpected contact. Don't bite, don't claw, don't fight, don't move. I'm absolutely terrified that one of these days, Xavier is going to surprise me and I'll kill him on accident. Or maybe on purpose, insofar as it's possible to separate things I know I shouldn't do from things I feel that burning need for.
The instinct, Lady Vesuvius says, is still me.
The fact that parts of me want something that the rest of me hates doesn't make those parts separate. People, she says, are inherently contradictory. Everyone struggles with urges and temptations and desires that they know are wrong. We're only noteworthy because of the sheer difference in scope our temptations cover, compared to that of others. We're only different because our failures hurt far more people than anyone else's.
Who said yes to what?
I asked carefully, peeling myself out of Xavier's grasp. Bentley. He cheers.
We're dating.
Officially.
Well,
not officially as in publicly, because officially I think it's against Templar policy to be in a relationship with someone in your own squad. He gives me a hesitant glance that roughly translates to please confirm this for me/help me with coursework. It is, yes, I confirm. Although there's no official punishment listed in said policy, and there are multiple notable examples of the rule being violated without consequence. He gives me a mischievous look and I take a turn towards the women's side of the dorms. He follows me anyway. The two of us are inside the barracks, though I'm still fully armored up because we'll be leaving shortly to attend church. I just need to go grab Captain Yelisaveta. Huh, it sounds like you did extra research on that one, Xavier hums. Somehow I bet the examples of exceptions aren't part of the rules. You wouldn't have any sort of special interest in that particular bit of policy, would you? I do, actually, I admit. I've been trying to learn more about rules that aren't rules, the difference between the parts of policy that are and are not actually enforced. I still can't figure out why, though. I don't even know why half the rules exist in the first place. The no relationships in the squad one was particularly confusing, since first I had to figure out what that meant. It meant the kind of relationship where people have sex, and then I had to figure out why that was a problem. I'm pretty sure humans really like and celebrate relationships. I'm still figuring this one out. You do? Xavier gasps, absolutely lighting up. Really? Oh my god, don't tell me, I want to guess. It's Melik. The hateful glares are simply evidence of his smoldering passion. The perfect cover story for a pair of forbidden lovers, whose nighttime trysts are legend. Wait, aren't you like 2 years old? I should definitely not continue this line of thinking. I would really prefer you didn't, I agree, grimacing under my helmet. I promise you, Melik actually hates me. What does my age have to do with it, though? It's just, he gestures vaguely. It's weird. I don't know, I say flatly. I literally don't have the slightest idea why you all think it's weird. I'm only aware that you do because I get all these shocked looks whenever anyone draws attention to it. You should all know this, you were alive when my egg was dropped into the forest. That's not. I mean, okay, we should know that, but it's still shocking anyway because, well, you look like an adult woman. A pretty darn attractive adult woman, frankly. Like wow, I wouldn't be surprised if jealousy is half of why Gina hates you. But attractiveness is a very adult-only thing. And you're not that age. At all. So it hits us like whiplash, and anybody who, thought of you that way, even a little, is now stuck rapidly trying to reverse those feelings. I scrunch my eyebrows together, trying to mentally wade through the muck of cultural implication I don't fully understand. Especially all the human attractiveness crap. I have enough trouble with body language and facial expressions. I haven't even started trying to figure out whether or not a person counts as attractive by human standards. As far as I can tell, they're all just human. But wait, we can back up here. The attractiveness bit doesn't really matter. What matters is that it's adult only, and that means. You think I'm a sub-person like human children? I ask, equal parts dumbfounded and offended. Xavier jerks with surprise. I've noticed he's always extra expressive, often putting his whole body into demonstrating emotions other humans would accomplish with just an eyebrow or two. Yo, Lark, he says with uncharacteristic seriousness. You can't call kids sub-people. That's fucked up. Sorry? How about pre-person, then? No. Xavier insists. Children are people. Are they? I press. Humans are born literally incapable of complex thought. Babies are useless, gross, and terrifyingly fragile. And a human my age isn't really much better. Like, sure, most of them can walk and talk, but the difference between a 2-year-old human and a 20-year-old human isn't just a lack of experience. The 2-year-old is literally incapable of thinking on the same level, or in the same way. You treat children as lesser beings because of this. You have a whole word for talking to someone like they're a child, and it's an insulting thing to do to someone. Unless that person actually is a child, because children cannot understand why they should care. Xavier opens his mouth, then closes it and shakes his head. Okay, I mean, you're not wrong, he admits. But children are still included in the definition of person. They're just mentally undeveloped people. So is that what you think I am? I ask. Mentally undeveloped? An idiot? A child? I might not know everything you know, but I'm not a kid. I'm not human, Xavier. I didn't hatch as a mindless blob that needed constant care to avoid death. I don't take an unimaginably long time just to gain a couple inches of height, and I definitely don't have to hear or see something 20 times before I remember it. I was outgrowing childhood before I was a year old. Humans are just slow. I'm getting angry, I realize. I can feel my instincts clawing at the back of my mind, tempting me to demonstrate my rage with tooth and claw. I take a slow breath, deliberately forcing those feelings down. Thankfully, Xavier helps by raising his hands in a placating gesture. Okay, you're right, he answers. Sorry. I definitely don't think you act like a kid, other than not knowing a bunch of stuff. But that's just like quirky ignorance, not immaturity. Though now that you bring it up, I wanna just confirm real fast that you remember your whole life? Like, from hatching? Because that blows my fucking mind. Language, I sigh. And I remember my life from before hatching, actually. My earliest memory is falling. The instinctive terror my body felt when I was dropped from Hiverock woke me up, I guess. Which is good, because it means I hatched quickly enough to eat a little before the frenzy got going. What's the first thing you ate? Xavier asks, his eyes wide with that strange fascination that makes me wonder if he'd like me less if I was human rather than Vrithitso. Which is an uncomfortable feeling. My sister, I answer simply. When we landed, we were all just in a big pile of eggs, I guess. We all started eating each other the moment we hatched. I'm alive because I thought to run away rather than stay to eat, and because eating my siblings healed the wounds I got from the fall. Wow, Xavier breathes as I finally reach and knock on Captain Yelisavetta's door. Man, Vrithitso are so badass. I narrow my eyes at him, not that he can see behind my helmet. Why do you always seem so happy about that? I press. We're a serious problem, Xavier. Well sure, yeah, of course, Xavier agrees. But you can be a threat to humanity and still be really fucking cool in like, the abstract, you know? Think about it. You eat things and manifest their traits on your body, slowly mutating into an ever more powerful, ever more complex creature of vastly superior strength, speed, and in your case, intelligence. How is that not the coolest fucking thing in the world? I scowl, feeling myself start to get irritated. I hope Elisaveta comes out of her room soon and gives me an excuse to leave. I hear her moving around inside, but she's not coming to the door. You don't have to live like this, Xavier, I remind him. I hate being a Vrithitso. It's freaking awful. He raises his hands placatingly again. Sorry, he answers. I'm not trying to trivialize your hardships or whatever. I didn't say it was fun and good for you, I said it was cool. I'm just biased that way, you know? I've wanted a shape-shifting talent since I was like 11. Not that the talent I ended up with isn't great, it's just, well, not my first choice. At those words, the door to Captain Yelisaveta's room suddenly bursts open, the woman herself emerging with a blank expression. She doesn't look like she's in very good shape. She's been sleeping a lot since I met her, but if anything the bags under her eyes just seem to get deeper. Lark, she greets me with a gruff nod. Sorry to make you wait. To church? To church, I confirm, nodding back at her. Are you doing okay, Captain? Not really, but I'll live, she answers, rolling her shoulder. Thanks for asking. You know, I gotta say, you're way more casual than I was expecting our future captain to be, Xavier comments, the three of us departing beside each other. I'm a lot better at making friends than I am at giving orders, Captain Yelisaveta explains, yawning. I don't think that's going to change just because they gave me a fancier helmet. Besides, as long as you take it seriously when I do give an order, that's what matters. Cool. Xavier grins, saluting lazily. Well, I look forward to serving under you, Mom. Yelisaveta mumbles. Just make sure you and your new boyfriend don't cause any problems, because then they become my problems. No teenage lover shit, no favoritism, no having sex in the dorm. I'll know. And if you break up, do it like adults. I'm weirdly offended by the fact that Xavier is, in that moment, far more terrified of the captain than he's ever been of me. Xavier stammers, blushing. Yes Mom. Where is Bentley, anyway? I ask idly. Oh, he's going to his mom's church today, Xavier answers, shrugging awkwardly. It's like, halfway across the city. I nod. I also think I'm supposed to say congratulations, but I forgot. So, congratulations. He brightens right back up at that. Thanks. The church we go to isn't in the barracks, it's a public structure. It is very close to the barracks, however, so it's just a few minutes of walking before we enter the huge building where people in this part of the city gather for sermons. There must be hundreds of humans in here, which I found much too intimidating to be a part of until pretty recently. But Bentley encouraged me to attend alongside him and Xavier a couple weeks ago, and I've been joining them here ever since. I stand out a bit, being the only person who shows up in full armor, but it's a lot less attention than I'd be getting from the alternative. I've heard this stone building is designed to hold over 1,000 worshippers at once, but even in that context it seems ridiculously big. The ceiling is a full 200 feet above our heads, with very little between here and there other than the giant glass windows that dominate the walls. Ever since seeing it, I can't help but wonder why. Humans definitely can't grow that tall. Is it supposed to accommodate flying guests? It can't have anything to do with the function of the church itself. Preacher Gregory's church was smaller than a barn and we had sermons in that without any problems. It's not actually required for Templars to attend church sermons, though since you have to get sponsored by a preacher to be one in the first place, nearly all Templars attend regularly. A large number of people from my barracks attend here, including all of my fellow trainees bar Melik. So after sitting down in one of the backmost pews and getting as comfortable as my armor allowed, I'm not terribly surprised to see Gina walking towards us. But I am very, very surprised to see Fulvia. My whole body freezes, shivering with wretched intensity. My loud one is back. My favorite meal. My body cannot vomit, but some part of the humanity I've acquired attempts a dry heave, the raw flood of emotion digging hooks into my mind, my throat, my stomach, and yanking it all at once. They brought her to me, my instincts sing, caring nothing for my pain. Look at her rejuvenated limbs. Soak in her stronger smell. I bet her flavor has healed just as well as the rest of her. And there's no flavor I know better than Fulvia's. Worse, my memories of her are entirely from when I was a child. From before I understood right and wrong, before I was capable of guilt or empathy. Looking back at the situation, I certainly regret it. But the memories themselves are completely untainted by negativity. They are, in many ways, happier times. Times when I could torture and murder and feel only joy in the act. And the reminder that I used to be a creature that horrible and that I can never experience that purity of happiness again both crush me from different directions, leaving me a screaming mess inside the silence of my own mind. Xavier sits on my left, Captain Yelisaveta on his other side. So it's Gina that takes the open seat to my right, Fulvia resting right next to her. There she is. My joy and regret, so tantalizingly, agonizingly close. My eyes start to water, and I do everything I can to focus on holding back the sobs. "Hey, Lark," Gina greets me coldly. "Hey, Gina," I whisper breathlessly, unable to look at either of them. Fulvia doesn't say anything, but her body is so tense, so afraid, so furious that there's no doubt in my mind she knows exactly who I am. I let my gaze wander in every direction but theirs, and end up locking eyes with Captain Yelisaveta. She stares intensely at me for just a moment, then gives me a small smile, nodding ever so slightly. I don't know what that means, but somehow it makes me feel just a little less hopeless. Just a little, though. The preacher starts speaking about the virtue of community, and while I'll likely think back and re-listen to the contents later, I simply can't focus on it at the moment. A full hour drags agonizingly by, full of prayer, songs, and speeches about the glorious Mistwatcher. When it finally ends and people start dragging their way out of the building, I stand up and eagerly follow Captain Yelisaveta off the pew. Gina catches the captain in a conversation, but I keep heading towards the door, hoping to at least not be in the same room as Fulvia anymore. Yet she does not, unfortunately, stop and wait with Gina. She heads right towards me, glowering with an unquenchable hatred. When she stops in front of me, out of all the horrible thoughts rushing through my head there's one that stands out at me, a feeling I haven't had in months. She's shorter than me, now. Nearly half a foot shorter. I've changed a lot, since we last saw each other. I shouldn't forget that. I thought she was just telling the world's worst joke, at first, Fulvia hisses softly. As much of a good friend she is, Gina's the type of stupid that might actually be that tactless, you know? She pauses for half a beat, as if she initially planned to wait for a response but thought better of it halfway through. "Actually, do you know?" she asks. "What are you now, you freak? I want to see your face." She says we almost look like sisters. My former victim sneers. Tactless. Truly tactless. I swallow, half out of nervousness and half to try and chase away the memories of her flesh in my mouth. "I'm not allowed to remove my helmet," I whisper. "Sorry." "Then we'll go somewhere private," she says simply. "Gina is distracting your handler. Follow me." I don't even think about telling her no. Both my guilt and my hunger want me to obey. Not that I intend to give in to the latter, but it certainly makes things easier when both parts of me agree. We slip out of the church, just two more faces in the crowd. "So," I say, following her down a twisting, jagged set of alleyways, "Gina told you everything?" "I don't know if I'll believe it until I see your face," Fulvia answers. "They'd already sent the team out to kill you when I woke up. The hunters reported a success, but here you are. You even feel different. My danger sense doesn't pick you up right." I blink, tilting my head with surprise. "It doesn't?" I ask. "What do you mean?" "You feel weaker than you should," Fulvia says simply. "I couldn't pick you out from any group of hunters, yet you're fast and strong enough to treat Gina like a baby." She pushes open a door, and the two of us enter a dark, partially dilapidated home. It's completely empty, and there's a large hole in the floor as if it had all caved in. "I'm surprised you want to be anywhere near me," I admit. What I did to you was beyond unforgivable. I'm sorry. It means nothing, but I'm sorry." "Helmet," Fulvia orders, closing the door behind us. "Off." I don't know what she wants from me, and it doesn't really matter. I do as she says. I undo the helmet clasps and pull it off, giving my frizzy hair a shake and flicking my ears. "Holy fucking shit," Fulvia breathes. "You really did take my face. Or most of it. Your nose still looks like Ivan's." I remember that. She approaches, and I stay carefully still as she starts to slowly circle around me. "You're real," she continues. "You're actually alive, standing around in Templar armor like a damn fucking hero." I'm not really sure how to respond to that. "Is there something you'd like from me?" I ask hesitantly. "Anything is fine." "God, listen to you fucking talk," she growls. "Air hissing between your teeth.
I remember the dumb bitch teaching you words. I remember the way you'd try to sing, like a stupid little monster baby. I can't believe this. I can't fucking believe this. You're really here. I'm talking to you. I glanced down, seeing her hands vibrating with fury, balled into fists. Would you like to hit me? I offer. I would like to kill you, Fulvia says plainly. And that's what makes this so fucked up. I'm a hunter. Killing monsters is my job. But I can't do it because the Templars will protect you. Their little fucking pet project. I twitch my ears, a bit confused by that. That's not why she can't kill me, though? The Templars aren't even here. She can't kill me because she's too weak. I've learned enough from my interactions with Gina that I shouldn't tell a human that, though. Fulvia is quiet for a while, her anger festering in silence. I'm not sure what to do. My memories and impulses still scream at me to taste her again, but they've returned to the usual dull background roar I contend with constantly. I wouldn't have come here if I wasn't confident that I could avoid hurting Fulvia. But, is there some way I can help? I am a monster, I say simply, agreeing with her words. I deserve worse than death for what I've done to you. But death hasn't come for me. So as long as I'm alive, I want to do good things. Not to make up for it, but just because that's what I've been taught. I can spend my time doing nothing. Or I can spend it doing good. And so many people in my life have promised I can, so I will. Somehow. I swallow. I'm starting to believe it, I admit to her. I won't hurt you again. I don't care, Fulvia answers bluntly, and punches me in the face. I see the attack coming. I could dodge it, but I don't. I let her fist connect right on my cheekbone, forcing me to stagger back and nearly fall to the ground. Shit, that actually really hurt. I guess now that I think about it, she fought with a gigantic mace when I first met her. She probably has a strength-enhancing tail. A second punch knocks my thoughts short, my head ringing from the blow as I collapse to the ground. She jumps on my chest, straddling me as I'm hit again, 3 times, 4 times. I clamp my jaw as tightly as I can, not wanting to risk her fists grazing my teeth and giving me a taste of her blood again. Yet my own blood starts to flow, thick and black down my face. And with every blow, every injury, my hunger roars louder. But I won't hurt her. I refuse. She wants to beat me? Fine. Watcher knows she deserves it. I feel her shaking from more than just the impacts, screaming with incoherent fury as tears stream down her face and salt my wounds. I hope this makes her feel better. I hope this helps. Please, Watcher. Ease her suffering. Time seems to slow. Or, perhaps speed up. Blow after blow hammers down on my face, cracking bone and drawing blood. Maybe. Too much blood. I feel myself getting woozy. Hungry. It's bad. This is bad. Stop, I say, moving up an arm to block her strike. She bats it aside, continuing her attack. Stop. I repeat more firmly, trying to grab her arms. But blood is stinging my eyes, I'm dizzy, and I need to bite her. No. No. I won't. I can't. I flail at her, trying to restrain her or knock her off, but my head is ringing and my senses are all messed up. There's such an easy way to fix that, too, if I just open my mouth and take it. I stretch my jaw out wide. Fulvia, I don't want to fight back. I yell at her. If I'm hurt too much, I'll lose control. Then do it. She screams. Bite me, you fucking freak. Give them a reason to put you down. Fulvia. You think I'm afraid of you? She raves. You really think, after every pound of flesh you've taken from me, I won't lose another arm to make sure you die for good? Do it, you monster. Do it. I have to grab her, hold her, stop her, but it's too hard. I can't web her up with my gauntlets on. She breaks free if I grab her. I can't block her attacks without being able to see, but I can kill her. That would be easy. She's straddling me. One punch and I could probably cave her skull in. Or, even better, I simply lean into the next fist and bite it off. Ah, what an exquisite experience that would be. I've eaten her upper arm dozens of times, but her hand? I only ever tasted that once. I should stop. A commanding voice shouts, the half-broken door to the house slamming inward. What the fuck are you doing? Stop. Oh?
I recognized that voice.
Captain Yelisaveta, an easy meal. It was so stupid of them to have her watch me. I'll just have her after no. I'm better than this. I will not give in to my hunger here. Not after so long. I've been doing so well. Over a year of living with humans and not hurting them. Over half my life. That means something. I'm better than this. Yet August was better than her, my hunger reminds me. And I still ate him. I was so angry at the time, so furious at someone so innocent. And the situation is reversed here. I'm not being rescued, I'm being attacked. I'm not better than this, not really. And even if I was? The loud one should know better. Out of the corner of my eye I see Captain Yelisaveta rush forward, but I've already lost my battle. Regret welling up before the action even completes, I open my jaws. Biting down on flesh, the red blood mixes with black,